Hey there, friends! Well, it's spring, so I definitely have gardening on the brain, and so I've been brainstorming some of the most common garden mistakes that a lot of people make, especially as beginners, but also, of course, give you the solutions so that you don't have to make them. Gardening isn't something that you're just kind of born with a green thumb, and if you aren't good at it, then oh well, you just didn't have the green thumb. It's definitely something that's learned, it's a skill, and it's not always easy. It takes some trial and error and things like that. And of course I like to share some ideas with you on how to avoid, issues that you can encounter or what you can do for best success, because then that can help you maybe avoid some of those trial and error and get good at it faster than you would if you were just trying trial and error on your own, etc. So I want to share with you, some of the common gardening mistakes and then how to avoid them. The first one is going to be planting too much, especially as a beginner. So people will have an apartment, that they've lived in for a while. They'll maybe buy a house or something like that, and they'll be all excited to have a green, a garden. And so they'll rush out and plant all kinds of things, not realizing how much work is involved. And so, planting too much, especially too early on, can definitely be a big garden mistake. And another thing is planting too much even of certain things. So like zucchini is extremely prolific. So planting 10 zucchini plants is going to be more zucchini than your entire neighborhood could probably eat. So, just plant the appropriate amount of things, and then, if you are a beginner, I would highly recommend just picking some things that you really, really want to grow and then expanding from there, because, you'll get more efficient at it and so on. And so as you're going and you're growing your garden, it'll be easier to maintain than a big one that you're not really sure, how much it's gonna take to maintain. So avoid planting too much if you can. The second one would be giving plants the wrong light conditions, or just planting things in the wrong areas in general. So if you were to plant something in full sun, like an early spring crop that's maybe a cool weather crop, it's not going to grow very big, it's probably going to bolt right away, and you won't get what you really wanted out of it. Whereas if you were to plant maybe a big tomato plant, in a very small pot or in a small spot up against the house where it really doesn't get full sun, it's not going to do very well. And so planting the right plants in the right places is really something that you can do to help make sure all of those plants have the best success. So consider where they need to go as far as light, how much space they take up, and things like that. So just, trying to make sure you put that right plant in the right place and giving it the right, light conditions can definitely help make sure your garden is successful. And then the third thing would be skipping soil preparation. There's a lot of different gardening methods out there, of course. There's the traditional till, there's the no-till, there's the lasagna gardening, there's the back to Eden, there's all kinds of different, gardening techniques out there. And I definitely don't want to recommend one over another because they all have their ups and their downs. And some take more work than others, and some take several years, and some can be done, even within the first year. And so it's really just dependent on the person and what they feel is going to, work for them, especially, if you're just starting out. And so it doesn't matter, again, which technique you choose, but it's just choosing one of them and then sticking with it is important. So if you weren't to prepare the soil, say you wanted to have a garden and it's an area where there's grass, not digging out that grass, or, not at least tilling the soil for the first time. If you are doing a no-till garden, sometimes that can be needed. If you have really heavy clay, you got to turn it up that once, then maybe build a garden bed around it so that nobody compacts it to step on it. Just not preparing the soil properly, it can make it to where you have drainage issues, and then you can have like root rot and other issues with that. It can make it to where the soil doesn't have enough nutrition to support the plants, and so you'll end up with leaves that are yellow or purple or just different colors, or just kind of limp along and things like that. So proper soil preparation can help ensure that you're going to have the drainage you need, and that the soil will be loose so that the roots can go down into it. If you have extra sandy soil or something, maybe adding some compost or other things that can help hold the moisture or make it to where they won't dry out so fast, and it can just save you a lot of different issues that you could encounter along the way. So definitely don't skip soil preparation. It's really key to the success of your plants over the life of your garden. The next one would be to plant at the wrong time, so planting either too early or too late. So spring crops, like I was mentioning earlier, need the cool weather, so planting those kind of on the earlier side to make sure that they have enough of a growing season before the hot weather hits. But just definitely planting things, if you're planting your tomatoes. I actually heard recently of somebody who had planted their tomatoes too early. The frost killed them. They replanted them. The frost killed them again. They replanted them. The frost killed them a third time. And so they were actually buying plants to do their fourth planting of their tomatoes because they obviously just planted them too early, whereas you wouldn't end up with all of that expense, all of that extra work and whatnot, just to find out what the right time to plant those would be and then to plant them on time. Or at the same time, if you're busy or end up, with things coming up and you don't get to plant them until later on, you baby your tomatoes all the way on until the snow hits right as they were just starting to produce. Planting them a little bit earlier would have made it to where you ended up getting a better crop out of them. So you don't want to plant them too early, but then again, you don't want to plant them too late either. And it's not just tomatoes, of course. All of the garden plants, of course, I can't go through them all right now. It would really end up being a really long video, but you definitely need to make sure that you're planting the things at the right times for the best success. The next most common gardening mistake is not hardening off your plants. I think this is a mistake that almost every gardener has made early on. And basically, if you missed that video, it was actually the first video in this Gardening Week series, so if you missed it, you can check out that little iCard. I think it's this way, actually. And I'll go ahead and link it there, or in the description box below. But basically, it's the process of toughening up your plants so that they're more ready to be planted outside. And without going through this process of hardening off your plants, you can end up with them withering and sometimes even dying. So it's actually pretty important that you harden off your plants, to keep them from going through that kind of stress, and then also to help ensure the success of your garden plants. So definitely make sure you harden off your garden plants, whether they're transplants from the garden center or transplants that you've grown yourself. You definitely want to make sure to go through that process of hardening them off for best success. Alright, the next one would be spacing improperly. Putting things either too close together or too far apart. Both can actually be big problems. If you put them too close together, plants don't end up being as productive as they should be. They kind of crowd each other out, they compete for the sunlight, water, and the nutrients and things like that, and so they can make the plants a whole lot less productive if you put them too close together. But if you put them too far apart, then you can end up with lots of weeds coming up, and so there's extra work involved, and sometimes plants actually like a little bit of shade from each other, so planting them, if you're planting too far apart, if you were to put them a little closer together, they would actually end up being more successful. So follow the spacing on the packets and make sure that you maintain that so that your plants can be the most happy and, of course, the most productive. And then the last one is going to be either too much or too little fertilizer or compost or whatever it is you choose to give your plants nutrition with. You can actually burn your plants with too much fertilizer. So if it says to use a certain amount every few weeks, instead of using all of what you would need all in the at once in the beginning of the gardening year or whatnot, follow the directions and use how much you're supposed to use along the way. I use organic fertilizer, and it's a lot harder to burn a plant with organic fertilizer, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. But yeah, just giving them enough to where they're healthy and happy and they're not starving for nutrients, but then not so much that they end up with problems. Giving them the right amount of fertilizer at the right times and not too much or too little is definitely something that can help make your garden the most successful. So I hope this video was helpful to you so you can avoid some of the most common gardening mistakes. And so we'll see you next time. I'm Frugal Green Girl. Thanks for watching. Oh no, look. Are you the one who's been eating my garden? Huh? Is it you? You. Have you been eating the lettuce? You have, haven't you? Where did you come from? I don't like you. You better watch yourself. I got a farm cat. He's probably gonna get rid of you. You're cute, so run away.